Hello everyone and welcome to Fiction Friday. Today we have episode 34 of The Squire. I hope you enjoy it.
Traveling through Michael's portal felt different from Alana's, smoother, like trading a dirt road for a cobblestone one. The kingdom of Sirona's palace, like Celestia, sat in the center of its capital city. Cole and his team emerged from the portal a little ways up the central thoroughfare facing the main gate. Cole frowned at the lack of a gate guard. Then he noticed the greasy black smoke billowing out several windows. That couldn't be good. "I think we're too late." "I fear you're right," Michael said. "How do you want to proceed?" "We need to figure out where the royals are. If they're in the palace with Zarin, we need to get them to safety. But if not, I don't want to risk everyone searching. Can you sniff them out with your magic?" Michael's brows drew together while he concentrated. A few seconds later, he said, "I get no sense of the king and queen. They're either dead or in hiding. The crown prince is far to the south near the lake, but I can't get an exact fix. Zarin? He's certainly in the palace. If he's in the palace, we're not going anywhere near the place." "Hear, hear," Maine said to no one in particular. Cole shot him a look before turning back to Michael. Who would know exactly where the prince was? "The only place I can think of is our embassy." "Great. Where is it?" "Follow me." They jogged through the quiet, twilit streets. The area around the castle appeared to be mainly residences, noble mansions to be precise, mixed with high-end businesses. The embassy turned out not to be too far from where they arrived. It occupied a plain two-story building and had a guard in Celestia's colors standing by the doors. The man moved to bar their way, but a second look at Michael's robes persuaded him to stand aside and open the door. Seated at a desk a little ways inside the door was a blonde woman around Rain's age in a snug crimson dress that showed her figure to good effect. She must have known Michael because she got a big smile when she spotted him. "He's in his office, sir. Please go right on back." Michael smiled. "Thank you, Pamela." They left the girl and went deeper into the embassy. Dark hardwood paneling covered the ceiling and walls, and thick carpet muffled their steps. The whole place gave off an air of formality that made Cole uncomfortable. "Do you know that girl?" Cole asked. "She's my niece. I pulled some strings to get her this job." Michael stopped and knocked on a closed door. "Come in," a muffled voice said. Michael pushed the door open and Cole followed him in. Maines tapped him on the shoulder and Cole turned to face him. "What?" "I think me and the boys will wait out here." Cole nodded and closed the door behind him. He turned around and found the ambassador, a stout, bald man with a smoldering pipe clamped between his teeth. Cole stifled a cough at the stink from the tobacco. "Michael! Good to see you again. I made it up to the castle this morning to warn the king and his family. They assured me they'd take every precaution." "I hope they did. The palace is under attack and at least some of it's on fire." "Light burned me. I received no word." "I'm sure they had more pressing things to worry about," Michael said. "We were hoping you could tell us where to find the crown prince. I sent him to the south, but that's too vague to be much use." "Ah, Prince Henry, of course. He's a good lad, but a little wild. His parents sent him away to school at King's College on the shore of the lake. They're trying to teach him to be a king, I suppose. One moment, I have a map here somewhere." The ambassador rummaged through his drawers until he found a rolled-up piece of parchment. He unrolled it on the small, unused portion of his desk and pointed to a little village on the shore labeled Learn, an appropriate name for a college town. "That's where they sent him." Michael shook hands with the ambassador. "Thank you, Tom." "Of course, Michael. Anytime I can be of use." Cole nodded to the ambassador and they rejoined Maines and the rangers out in the hall. "We know where we're going," Cole said. "I wish we had some idea of what we're stepping into," Michael said. "For all we know, Zarin sent 100 beastmen to Learn with orders to hunt down the prince." "I'll take 100 beastmen over one darkcaster any day," Cole said. "Let's get a move on." The lack of screaming and bleeding people told Cole that Zarin hadn't sent 100 beastmen as Michael feared. What it didn't tell him was what, if anything, the darkcaster had sent. The sun had set and lights dotted a quaint little town filled with taverns, and no doubt a few disguised whorehouses that had grown up around the sprawling campus of the college. Michael started toward the college, but Cole put a hand on his shoulder. "Are you sure he's not in town?" Michael shook his head. "It's never occurred to me to check. Classes are through for the day, so I suppose he could be in town having a drink." "Let's hope he's not drunk or otherwise indisposed," Cole said. "It'll be hard enough getting him out of here if we don't have to sober him up first." Michael concentrated again and looked toward the college. "He's there, and I sense a dark presence closing in." "Zarin?" Cole asked. "Not that strong. I think it's the Black Prince." A jolt of adrenaline burned through Cole. Finally, he'd get a fair shot at him without Zarin in the way. "Let's hurry. We need to find Prince Henry first. Will you be able to get a better sense of his location when we get closer?" Michael nodded as they ran toward the college. "I'm scanning constantly now. With each step I hone in on his position as well as the Black Prince's." "You're on point then. Show us the way." The way led to the school library, a freestanding structure a few hundred yards from the main building. Michael stopped at the foot of the short set of stairs. "They're both in there, still some distance apart, but not for much longer." The team ran up the steps and Cole pushed the doors open. A small desk stood at the end of an open area, and behind it stretched row upon row of full bookcases. Behind the desk sat a little old lady with glasses perched on the tip of her nose. She looked up at them, her lips pressed together in a stern expression. "This is a library, not a battlefield. No weapons allowed." A little smile curled his lips at the woman's unknowing irony. Unless they got very lucky, the library was indeed about to become a battlefield. "Where's Prince Henry? We need to find him right away." She waved behind her in a vague way. "He's somewhere among the stacks. Is there some trouble?" "I'm afraid so, ma'am. Are there any other students studying tonight?" "Two others, but I don't know exactly where they are either." "Are there any other entrances?" Maines asked. She shook her head. "No, why would there be?" "There is now," Maines muttered. Cole elbowed him in the ribs. "No reason, ma'am." Cole motioned one of the rangers over. "Please go outside with this gentleman and keep any other students from entering until we secure the prince. Thank you for all your help." The ranger led the librarian out the doors. When they'd gone, Cole said, "Fan out and find the prince. Michael, what does he look like?" "Tall, broad shoulders, short blonde hair, green eyes. He carries himself with the air of nobility. You can't mistake him for anyone else." "Right," Cole said. "Anybody finds a big blonde kid with his nose stuck in the air, give a shout. Questions?" No one had any, so they spread out. Cole went straight down the center aisle, sword drawn, hoping to find the Black Prince almost as much as Prince Henry. All he found was shelf after shelf of books. The musty smell of the place tickled his nose. Halfway down the next section of shelves, something thumped. 3 bounding steps brought him to the end of the row. He lunged between the shelves, sword raised. He found 2 students, neither of them Prince Henry, locked at the lips and pressed up against the shelves. The boy spotted Cole standing there with his drawn sword, and to his credit, stepped in front of his lady friend and raised his fists. Cole shook his head and lowered his sword. "Either of you seen Prince Henry?" Both of the wide-eyed kids shook their heads. Cole sighed. "Get out of here." They ran for the doors without further prompting. He watched until they were out of sight, then turned back to the hunt. He'd barely taken 2 steps when a piercing whistle cut the air to his left. One of the rangers must have found the prince. He turned and rushed toward the whistle, thumping footsteps indicating the other's approach. A confused Prince Henry sat at a table covered with open books, parchment, and pens. A ranger with salt and pepper hair stood beside him. Farther to his right, Michael emerged from a row of bookcases, and a moment later, the 2 rangers they enlisted to replace their fallen comrades joined him. Behind him, Cole heard Maines. Everyone gathered around the prince. "Would someone tell me what the hell is going on?" Henry demanded. The Black Prince's arrival preempted Cole's explanation. The hulking, black-armored figure held his massive sword easily in one hand. "Michael, portal," Cole said. The Black Prince swung his sword and a wave of black energy swept toward them. Cole got his sword up in time to deflect part of the blast, and still it staggered him. The others went flying along with scores of books and the prince's study papers. Cole hoped they'd be long gone before the librarian discovered the mess they'd made. The Black Prince advanced, and Cole stumbled to his feet to meet him. His opponent's first blow crashed into Cole's sword with the force of a battering ram, forcing him back, then down to one knee. He gathered himself and pushed back. A mountain had more give than his opponent's arm. In a contest of strength, it seemed he had little hope of victory. He leapt back, ready to meet the Black Prince's next attack. He didn't have long to wait. An overhead chop was soon whistling down with enough force to cut Cole in half. Fortunately for him, he had no intention of being there to get hit. Cole danced out of the way of the heavy blade and counter-thrust at the armored chest. His sword bit onto the breastplate, gashing the black metal but missing the flesh beneath. Cole grinned, and behind him he heard the others struggling to their feet. "Come on, you big ugly bastard. Let's find out how you do against an opponent that can see you coming." Whether the taunt or the damage to his armor angered him, Cole couldn't say, but the Black Prince charged in like a bull, sword leading. Cole wanted to dodge again, but if he did, his opponent would crash into his still recovering companions. He lunged, hoping to run his opponent through before getting trampled. Faster than anyone that size had a right to be, the Black Prince flicked his wrist and the huge sword batted Cole's blade out of line. They passed each other and spun. Again, his opponent's speed took Cole by surprise. A black gauntleted hand clamped over his sword wrist and flung him into a bookcase, which promptly collapsed, burying Cole in a book avalanche. Frantic, Cole shoved books out of his way. He got his head out in time to see Maines take a boot to the chest and go flying. Michael sent a beam of energy at the armored figure. The Black Prince got his sword around in time to deflect it. One of the black gauntlets shot forward, and a midnight beam of light hit Michael and sent him sprawling. Cole got his arms out of the pile and clawed forward in a desperate attempt to free his legs. He was too slow. The massive blade rammed through Prince Henry's back and out his chest, just like Sir Garrus. The Black Prince swung the blade aside and flung Henry's body away like so much trash. He turned toward Cole and his team with murder in his eyes. A blinding white light filled the room, and the Black Prince howled. Hands grabbed Cole under the armpits and pulled him free of the books. Someone put a hand on his shoulder and guided him somewhere. Cole didn't care where, as long as it was away from the monster in the library. Fresh, cool air hit him in the face. He blinked, and his vision cleared enough that he saw a golden disc form a short ways away. "Run!" Cole didn't know if Maines spoke to him or the librarian, but when a hand shoved him in the back, he ran through the portal.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Fiction Friday. If you liked what you heard, you can find more of my fiction on my website, jamesewisher.com. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with anyone else you think might enjoy the show. Until next week, goodbye.